Hello everyone. So this video is a continuation to a SQL programming course. In this video, we are going to take you through the various keys which we used, like primary key, super key, candidate key, alternate key, foreign key, compound key. So these keys are very important when we are programming in SQL. So I will just go through it. Like, what are keys? Keys are basically used to identify any row of data in a table. So in a real world example, we would have seen a key. Key is to get a specific records, a unique records. Okay, so in SQL, we have a various type of key, but there are some important keys which we used in SQL programming, that is primary key and a foreign key. But we should know about all the key in advance. So let me go through. So the first key which we'll be talking about is a super key. Super key is a group of single or a multiple keys which identify a row in a table. Super key may have an additional attributes that are not needed for unique identification. So when we talk about a super key is a group of single or a multiple keys. So it can be a group of single key also or a multiple key, but these key groups are important to identify a row, a specific row in a table. Like suppose I wanted to identify this value, like if you see this one, employee S1, employee number, employee names. So when we will try to access any of the unique identification, then we would need either a single key or a multiple keys to access these records. Okay, so that we call as a super key. Second, we are going to take as a primary key. Primary key is a column or a group of columns in a table that uniquely identify every row in a table. Primary key cannot be duplicated. So by the name suggests, primary key is a single key. It's a unique key which helps to get the data from the row. So in SQL, we used to store a data in the form of rows and a columns. Okay, so your rows contain your data and your column names is the name of the, let me show you one example, then you are going to identify, like this is a SQL example, how data is stored in the SQL programming. So your column names are the name of the uh, column which is going to store the data. For example, employee name would be storing the names of the employee. Employee number will be storing the employee number, and employee SSN number will store the SSN number of the employees. Okay, so your primary key, if you want to get a unique key from this table, for example, suppose your employee number is a unique. Okay, so if I want to get shown, can you get me the person details with the uh, person? Can you get me the employee details of the person with employee AB05? Then we need to use this key. So that we call as a primary key. A primary key cannot be duplicated. For example, if we are using this key to get the data, then it should be a unique, not a duplicate, which means that we should not get a duplicate records when we trigger this based on a table. So if I want to access the detail of an employee based on this employee number, it should give me one record, not the duplicate records. So that's a primary key. There are certain rules. Two rows can't have a same primary key. Okay, no two rows can have a same primary key. It must for every row to have a primary key. That is very important. So in a SQL programming, every values in every table there is a primary key. So that is very important, and that should not be repeated. Like if you're storing a data in a SQL, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that becomes your primary key. Okay. Second, the primary key field cannot be null. Obviously, the primary field cannot be null because it's a unique identification. In order to get any data, there we can use directly a primary key. The value in the primary key column can never be modified or updated. Exactly. If any foreign key refers to a primary key. Now this statement means that the value in a primary key column can never be modified. Means if we are storing some data like this, and if we want to change this employee number, so we can't modify this employee number. Okay, so we can't change this employee number because it's a primary key in this table. Okay. You got this now. The value in the primary key column can never be modified or updated if any foreign key refers to a primary key. So this primary key concept, these were some important points which they can ask us, like what is a primary key and what are the features? Can a primary key be null? So in interview they used to ask us. And even this also, can we modify primary key or can we update primary key? The answer is no. We can't modify and update primary key. Second, so this is just a table. This is a simple example of SQL. In SQL, basically we used to store in this form of data. These are your columns. These are your data. So if you see, this is your primary key. 1, 2, 3. We can't change this. If you want, I wanted to change and make it 5. This can't happen because it's a unique. This is a primary key in this table because it's a unique. Now, first, can a roll number be a primary key? Yes, roll number can also be a primary key, but it should be a unique. Now, second is the first name can be a primary key? No, because two person can happen with the same name. There can be two person with the same name. So first name cannot be, even email ID, even last name can't be happen with the same primary. Email ID, if a person is having unique email ID in a specific table, then it can become a primary key. But we give first in a single table, we can make only one column as a primary key. We can't have a multiple columns as a primary key. So in interview, they used to ask, like, if they show you this table, can I make two primary key? Answer is no. You can make one primary key. Let's go to alternate key. Alternate key is a column or a group of columns in a table that uniquely identifies every row in a table. A table can have a multiple choices for primary key, but only one can be set as a primary key. See, I told you, no? In a table, there can be a multiple primary key. Like if you see this table, roll number is also unique. No two person can have the same roll number. So this roll number can be a primary key. Student ID can be a primary, can be email ID. So your alternate key is the same thing it's talking about. Alternate key is a column or a group of columns in a row that uniquely identifies every row. A table can have multiple choices to set. So I can have alternate values in as my alternate keys. So this we call as an alternate keys, but there is only one primary key. Now we have a candidate key. Candidate key is a set of attributes that uniquely identify tuples in a table. Candidate key is a super key with no repetitive attributes. Primary key should be selected from the candidate key. Like I can call this as a candidate key. This and this is a candidate key. And from candidate key, I select the primary key that we call as a candidate. It must contain unique values. Candidate key can have multiple attributes, must not be null, and it should contain minimum field to ensure the weakness and unique identifying niche records. So that's it about the primary key. Basically, they in interview they used to ask about what is primary key, what is candidate key. From primary key, we get it from candidate key. So this is example. Now you can understand. Student ID, roll number, first name, last name, email. So I am selecting primary key from my candidate keys. These are candidate keys. And if you see, this is an alternate keys. So the primary key which we do not take, the one which we can't make as a primary key, that becomes your alternate. That is your alternate key. I think your confusion, this picture will resolve your confusion. So if it is asked what is primary key is a unique key which can have repeated values. We take primary key from the candidate key. And rest all leaving the candidate key apart from primary key becomes your alternate keys. Okay. Now foreign key, I will take it in next session.